In the heart of Accra, where wealth masked the deepest flaws, a spoiled young man believed the world revolved around him, until a humble orange seller stepped into his life, wielding not just a stick, but a lesson that would shatter his arrogance and change his destiny forever. Once in the bustling, affluent city of Accra, there lived a 20-year-old boy named Kojo, the only child of Madame Efua, a wealthy businesswoman who had built her empire from the ground up. Kojo was surrounded by luxury. Fast cars gleamed in their massive garage, a swimming pool sparkled in the afternoon sun, and their house, a sprawling mansion on the hill, was adorned with the latest gadgets and furnishings. Kojo's life was one of privilege, but he was also known for his arrogance and temper. Madame Efua loved her son dearly, but often worried about the man he was becoming. She was a woman who had worked hard and understood the value of respect, yet her son, born into comfort, seemed blind to it. Kojo treated the house servants with disdain, believing they existed solely to serve his every whim. He demanded perfection, but offered no gratitude, and his tantrums often echoed through the halls of the mansion. A day of trouble. One sweltering afternoon, Kojo was seated in his air-conditioned room, engrossed in a football game on his PlayStation 5. The room was a teenager's paradise. Posters of famous footballers lined the walls, and trophies from his school days sat proudly on a shelf, though they had long lost their shine. Kojo was playing his favorite team, screaming at the screen as though his voice could influence the players' movements. Outside, the house was alive with activity. Essie, a young maid who had recently been hired, was busy preparing lunch in the kitchen. Though she was only a few years older than Kojo, her life had been vastly different. Essie had grown up in a small village, working on her family's farm before coming to the city in search of work. She was quiet and hardworking, always eager to please. Essie knocked gently on Kojo's door, holding a tray of freshly squeezed juice. "Master Kojo," she said softly, "your lunch is ready." Kojo didn't respond. He was too focused on his game. Essie hesitated, then knocked again, a little louder this time. "Master Kojo?" The sound of her voice broke his concentration, just as his virtual opponent scored a goal. Kojo threw his controller onto the couch and stormed to the door, flinging it open. His face was a mask of rage. "Why are you disturbing me?" he shouted. "Can't you see I'm busy?" "I'm sorry, Master Kojo," Essie stammered, her hands trembling. "I just wanted to let you know that your lunch is ready." "Do I look like I care about lunch?" he snapped. "Get out of my sight!" Essie turned to leave, but Kojo wasn't finished. "Wait," he barked. "Since you've decided to interrupt me, you can clean the floor until it shines, and don't even think about leaving until I say so." Tears welled in Essie's eyes, but she nodded and picked up a mop. She knew better than to argue. A mother's fury. Later that evening, Madame Efua returned home from a long day at work. She was greeted by the usual hustle and bustle of the household, but something seemed off. The other servants whispered among themselves, and Issy's eyes were red and puffy. "What happened?" Madame Efua asked Issy gently. Issy hesitated, glancing around nervously. "Nothing, madam." Madame Efua frowned. "Tell me the truth." One of the older maids, unable to keep quiet any longer, stepped forward and told Madame Efua everything. Kojo had yelled at Issy, humiliated her, and forced her to scrub the floor for hours. Madame Efua's face darkened with anger. She marched up to Kojo's room and found him back on his PlayStation, his earlier outburst seemingly forgotten. She switched off the TV, startling him. "What is the meaning of this?" she demanded. "Meaning of what, Mama?" Kojo asked innocently. "Your treatment of Essie," she snapped. "How dare you humiliate someone who works hard to keep this house running?" Kojo shrugged. "She interrupted me. I had to teach her a lesson." "You call that a lesson?" Madame Efua's voice trembled with fury. "You will apologize to her this instant." Kojo's eyes narrowed. "I'm not apologizing to anyone. She should know better than to disturb me." Madame Efua glared at him, her patience wearing thin. "Kojo, I am giving you one last chance. Apologize, or there will be consequences." But Kojo only smirked. "Fine. I'll apologize." A false apology. Later, Kojo cornered Essie in the kitchen. "Listen," he hissed. "You're going to tell my mother that I apologized, or you'll regret it. Do you understand?" Essie nodded, too scared to argue. When Madame Efua asked her if Kojo had apologized, she forced a smile and said, "Yes, madam." But Madame Efua wasn't convinced. That evening, she called a family meeting. Essie will take the rest of the day off, she announced, and Kojo will do all the housework. Kojo's jaw dropped. Me? Do housework? That's ridiculous. It's not up for discussion, Madame Afua said firmly. And so for the first time in his life, Kojo found himself sweeping floors, washing dishes, and even cleaning the bathroom. His friends called, asking him to join them for football, but he had to decline. The chores were endless, and by the end of the day, Kojo was exhausted. Madame Afua watched him struggle, a small smile playing on her lips. Maybe now you'll understand how hard the servants work, she said. The orange seller. A few days later, Kojo finally got a chance to play football with his friends. They gathered in the front yard, laughing and joking as they kicked the ball around. Kojo, eager to show off, took a powerful shot. The ball flew over the gate and struck a woman walking by, sending her tray of oranges tumbling to the ground. The woman, Adjoa, was a street vendor who had been selling oranges to support her family. She stared at the mess, her livelihood scattered across the dirt road. Kojo walked up to the gate, but instead of apologizing, he sneered, "You shouldn't have been standing there." Adjoa's eyes flashed with anger. She picked up a stick and marched toward Kojo. "You arrogant boy," she shouted, striking his leg. "Next time, you'll think twice before disrespecting someone." Kojo yelped in pain, clutching his leg. His friends laughed, but he glared at them, embarrassed. Limping back into the house, he decided to keep the incident a secret from his mother. A twist of fate. Weeks passed, and the household remained tense. Essie, exhausted by Kojo's relentless behavior, handed in her resignation. "Madam," she said softly, "I appreciate all you've done for me, but I cannot continue working here." Madame Afua was saddened but understood. Essie's departure left a noticeable gap in the household, and the other servants, already wary of Kojo, began to follow suit. Soon, only a skeleton staff remained, and Madame Afua was left scrambling to find replacements. Determined to restore order, Madame Afua placed an advertisement in the local paper. Housemaid needed, accommodation and meals provided. Far from the mansion, Adjoa, the orange seller, came across the advertisement while resting under a tree. Her orange sales had been slow, and with mounting bills to pay, the job seemed like a blessing. She decided to apply, unaware that the household belonged to the same arrogant boy who had kicked her oranges into the street. The job interview. The following Monday, Adjoa arrived at the mansion, clutching a small, well-worn bag. She wore her best outfit, a simple but clean blouse and skirt, and her demeanor was calm but determined. When Madame Afua opened the door, she was immediately struck by Adjoa's confidence. "Good morning," Adjoa said with a polite bow. "I'm here for the housemaid position." "Come in," Madame Afua said warmly. "Let's sit and talk." As they settled into the sitting room, Madame Afua began her usual line of questioning. Adjoa's answers were straightforward. She spoke of her humble background, her determination to work hard, and her need to support her family. "You seem like a strong and capable woman," Madame Afua said with a smile. "I think you'll fit in well here. You're hired." "Thank you, madam," Adjoa said, her face lighting up with gratitude. Madame Afua showed Adjoa to the servants' quarters and introduced her to the remaining staff. Everyone seemed to like her immediately. But everything changed the moment Kojo saw her. A shocking encounter. Kojo had just returned from a visit with his friends when he spotted Adjoa arranging utensils in the kitchen. His eyes widened in disbelief. "You!" he exclaimed, pointing at her. Adjoa turned to face him, her expression calm but firm. "Ah, it's you," she said, her voice steady. "What are you doing in my house?" Kojo demanded. Adjoa straightened her back, meeting his gaze. "I work here now." Kojo stormed into the living room, where his mother was reviewing some documents. "Mama, do you know who that woman is? She's the one who hit me with a stick." Madame Afua looked up, curious. "And why did she hit you?" Kojo stammered, unable to provide an answer without incriminating himself. "I see," Madame Afua said, her tone thoughtful. "Well, she is now part of this household. You will treat her with respect, Kojo, or you will deal with me." "But Mama—" "No arguments," Madame Afua interrupted. "You've chased away enough servants. Adjoa is staying, and that's final." Kojo stormed out, slamming the door behind him. Clashing worlds. In the weeks that followed, Adjoa and Kojo found themselves clashing constantly. Kojo went out of his way to make her work difficult, leaving his room in disarray and refusing to clean up after himself. But Adjoa, with her no-nonsense attitude, refused to be intimidated. One morning, Madame Afua assigned Kojo to assist Adjoa with cleaning the storeroom. "Mama, this is ridiculous," he protested. "I'm not a servant." "No, you're not," Madame Afua replied calmly, "but you will learn the value of hard work." Kojo sulked but eventually joined Adjoa in the storeroom. As they worked side by side, he tried to provoke her. "Why didn't you just stay on the street selling your oranges?" he sneered. Adjoa paused, wiping her hands on a cloth. "Because I want a better life." "Some of us don't have everything handed to us, Kojo." Her words stung, but Kojo said nothing. For the first time, he felt a pang of shame. A turning point. One evening, as the household settled down for the night, a storm rolled in, bringing heavy rain and strong winds. Madame Afua called everyone to the sitting room, worried about a leaking roof in one of the servants' quarters. Adjoa stood up. "It's my room, madam. I'll sleep in the kitchen tonight." Before Madame Afua could respond, Kojo surprised everyone by speaking up. "You can take my room," he said quietly. The room fell silent. Adjoa looked at him, surprised. "Thank you, but I'll be fine." Kojo shook his head. "No, it's my fault the servants' quarters haven't been maintained. Please, take my room for tonight." Madame Afua exchanged a glance with Adjoa, her heart swelling with pride. Perhaps her son was finally beginning to change. Kojo's redemption. Over the next few months, Kojo continued to soften. He began helping Adjoa with small tasks, asking her about her life, and even apologizing for his earlier behavior. Adjoa, in turn, shared stories of her struggles and triumphs, teaching Kojo the value of resilience and humility. By the time Adjoa left to start her own business, a small shop funded by Madame Afua, Kojo had transformed. He now treated everyone with respect, understanding that wealth and privilege meant nothing without kindness and empathy. Did you enjoy this story? If it made you think or feel something, don't keep it to yourself. Like this video to support more incredible tales. Share your thoughts in the comments. What did you think of Kojo's journey? If you were the mother, how would you have handled the situation? Don't forget to share this story with your friends and family. Everyone loves a powerful lesson. And if you're not already subscribed, hit that button so you never miss an episode of African Tales by Kwaku and Akua. Let's keep these stories alive together.